Hey, what's up guys? It's Videobob. I'm doing another Rolls-Royce video. This is my 2006 Phantom. This is the second one of these I've had. My first one was a 2004. Not much difference between the two. They're pretty much exactly the same car. These cars don't really change much. And with the prices of them depreciating down to about, I don't know, 20% or less, you can pick these cars up on an average of about $100,000. You can find them for a lot less. And when you do, you're probably going to need to do some work to them. Now, the big fear with owning these type of cars, whether it's a Rolls-Royce or a Bentley or a Maserati, is just the upkeep and the maintenance. Now, I happen to be somebody who works on cars. I run a custom car shop in Dallas, and I also have my shop here in Vegas, which is where I am now. I bought this particular home property because it came with this shop. I mean, I've got my own oil pit, my own 4-post lift. I have air compressors and all the things I need to work on cars, and that's why I bought this property. So I use this pit quite a bit because I have a bunch of different collector cars like this. Now, if I took this down to Tobin Rolls-Royce, where I bought my Maserati, they're going to charge me probably $1,000 to change the oil, maybe more. I don't know. And for one thing, Rolls-Royce dealerships just won't work on old cars. They don't want an old car coming in because they know that people won't pay the bills when they find the other problems that I'm about to show you. Now, in the past, when I've done my oil change videos on these cars, I wanted to try to do it as cheap as possible because I thought it would be kind of fun for the video. You can get a regular STP oil filter for this thing for $5 or $10 and just put regular oil in it. And that's all it is. I mean, oil's oil, okay? The label you put on the bottle doesn't necessarily change. It's the weight and the conditioner and the detergents that are in it that really matter. But I thought, for the purpose of this video, I'm going to do it a little bit different. I'm going to do a Rolls-Royce spec using official Rolls-Royce stuff. So I've gone to Tobin Rolls-Royce here in Vegas. This is a BMW, a Rolls-Royce oil filter. This is the real oil filter that goes, which is just a cartridge. It's a small paper cartridge. It's not a big deal. And then I went ahead and bought actual Rolls-Royce labeled oil. It says Rolls-Royce Genuine Engine Oil, SAE 030, 2-liter bottle. This stuff was expensive. Now, I've usually used other weights that were cheaper that you could get away with, but this is a BMW derived V12. It's not exactly the same as what's in the 760 Li, but it's pretty much the same. There's some things that are different about it just to make it run quieter and things like that. But basically, you have very small oil drains at the top of the engine, and that's why they use such a small, a thin weight. But here in Las Vegas, it gets pretty hot, Driving around, it's 120 degrees outside in the summertime, and that thin oil can be a problem. But the oil is helping to cool the engine because that oil is being circulated through oil coolers and cooling other elements as well. Like there are dual liquid-cooled alternators in this car and other things. And so we're not going to get into all that, but I'm going to do a regular factory OEM oil change on this car, which honestly isn't different than the other ones I've done, but we're using real branded Rolls-Royce oil and filter. Usually when I work on these cars, any Rolls-Royce car, they'll say, oh mate, you've got to use a MAN filter. You've got to use the proper filter. Well, when I'm doing my old 67 Rolls-Royce built-in crew, I use the MAN filter. This is the BMW German filter. So we're going to go ahead and change the oil. I got a little bit of an oil leak, and I got to figure out where that's coming from. I think it's probably just the drain. I think that the crush washer wasn't good. It could be. And then I've also noticed some other suspension problems. And that is something that is a real problem with these cars. If you buy one of these, plan on 100% you're going to be doing some suspension work on these things. And we're going to talk about that because if you've seen some of my other videos, we've already replaced the air shocks in this car once or twice. I confuse what I've done to this car versus my other one because they were both the same silver Phantom. And then sometimes I get confused. But the air shocks we've already done on this car, you can find my previous videos. This car's also had the whole fuel system replaced. There is a fuel pump on either side of this intake, and then there are 12 injectors. I paid $6,000 for that work to be done. What everybody wants to know is, if I go buy an old Rolls-Royce Phantom, what am I looking at in terms of maintenance? Well, once a year, maybe you'll do this oil change, and it'll cost you a few $100 if you don't mind doing it yourself. if you have somebody you can trust to do it, not like a Jiffy Lube, but a place that'll do it. And when I say trust, just to make sure they don't screw it up. But it's really one of the easiest oil changes in the world. There's a drain plug, there's a cartridge filter, you take that out, you drain the oil, you put oil in, bang, you're done. It's really easy. Where you're gonna run into some other issues is that every single one of these cars, you gotta think this car weighs like 6,000 pounds, and that was by design because, you know, everybody knows about, you probably don't know, George Bush, you know, and his law with the 6,000 pound tax write-off and all those other things. So the car's very heavy. The suspension on the front of this car, because of the weight of this engine, okay, you have, and I'm going to show you these arms that hold the front wheels on, okay? They are aluminum, magnesium, and they have this like vulcanized rubber on there. They're not serviceable bushings. You have to replace the whole thing. So guaranteed, you buy one of these cars that has the mileage, like this one has 75,000 miles, you buy one of those cars, plan on doing all the suspension just because of age alone. After coming up on 15, 20 years and the weight of this thing and the heat or the cold or the whatever, you are going to be replacing these suspension parts. So whatever you spend on your Phantom when you go buy one, if you decide to do that, set aside $10,000 to $20,000 to revamp the car. You need to plan to do that, because you're absolutely going to want to do all these things, because these are scheduled maintenance items for this car. It's just like owning a helicopter, a plane, or a boat. You can have a plane that sits in a hangar, doesn't fly a mile, and then every couple of years or whatever, you got to replace all that stuff, because that's just the way it is. All right, let's get under this car. All right, let's take a look under here. The first thing we did when I bought this car was replace this right here. Let me see if let me kick this out of the way. All right, it's not that hard of a job, but when you buy one of these cars, I've talked about it in my other videos, have somebody stand outside the car and look at the car and then slam on the brakes and see how much this moves back and forth. Your wheel should not move back and forth like this. If it does, these are going to be bad, as well as these right here. Now, we replaced these and you can see that they're still good, okay? But I've been hearing a clinkety clank under here, and gosh darn it, there it is, right there. This has been hitting metal on metal. It's an anvil reference. So this right here is bad, okay? And not serviceable. There's people out there go, oh man, I could brush my bushing through that. Just, you know, listen, they're designed to just be, you take it off, you throw it away, you can put another one on. Both sides, completely, look at that. Oh my Lord. Metal, touching the metal. I don't like it. Okay. So those got to be replaced, and that's the clinkety clank I've been hearing. Not only that, but the thing is badly out of tow. I've been losing air in this tire, and I keep putting air in it. I'm like, I wonder what's up with this tire. That's what's up with this tire. I don't know if you can see. There we go. So clearly the alignment is off. Can you see can you see that? Yeah. No bueno. And the problem is these tires are $1,000 a piece. We'll talk about that here soon. There's only 2 tires that fit on this car. Continental self-sealing tire with a foam sound deadener, and then these are the run flats. Now, I've already removed the underbelly pan. That's the underbelly pan, which I can't remember if this is the one we repaired. No, the other one was the one we repaired. Okay, so underbelly pan's off. Now, some maintenance items that you can do on this car is you have this removable plastic filter. This whole thing just comes off and is replaced. Okay, now here's your old filter. You've got a pre-drain for this cavity here, and then very inconveniently located is your drain right here, right above this little cross member. It's stupid. Like, couldn't they have just designed this to be like there, you know, or whatever? Come on. So you're gonna get all over this, but whatever, it doesn't make that big a difference. All you gotta do is you pre-drain this. Yeah, I don't even bother with that. I just make a mess. You just drain the oil out, and then you put oil in. That's the whole thing, right? It's more trouble to take this belly pan off. Now, I did have some wetness up here, so I sprayed some brake clean up here to try to figure out where that wetness is coming from, but I think it's probably just this pan. See that right there where it's wet? And what happens is you just got to come by once in a while and just tighten these up. Just put a little German speck on them, which is called good and tight. Just a little good and tight. That's all you need. And that's it. So I need to get this drained. Wow. Ow, that was way too tight. Man. Make sure I got my emergency catch. For those of you who've seen that video. It is just impossible to drain one of these cars, and not any car, without making a mess. Always keep extras of these plastic oil filter cartridges in case it cracks, because that could happen. And then it'll unscrew, and then it'll do that. Oof. Ah. And that's your paper cartridge. And that's my hand. I think that this washer wasn't good or something, or it was too tight, because I think it was...
Oh, they tightened it too tight and it...
Well, they is me, because I'm the asshole that did this last.
Oh.
Whoops.
Hey, you live and you learn, you know?
Well, you get a little, you know, overconfident, and you're like, oh, this needs to be tight, but really it doesn't. It doesn't need to be that tight.
Yeah. Thinking you're saving yourself some money, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, it's costing you more. You know?
Well, there's an old saying with these cars. A Rolls-Royce that doesn't leak is a Rolls-Royce with no fluid in it.
Yeah.
They're just like old Harleys, you know. Even though this is a completely different engine than is in the old ones. But, you know, they use the engine that was in the old cars, they used that same engine from like, probably like 1960 to 2002. I mean, like,
Right, yeah.
Rolls-Royce is one of those kind of companies that's like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
And so they stick with something for a long time. That's why you can get in my 1965 Rolls-Royce, and then you can get in this one, and they have the same air conditioning, you know, like the same pulls for, and the vents, and like the gauges, and just like things are very, very similar. They change a little bit. Right. But that's also what keeps them so timeless. This smaller little washer here is designed for this little drain here, which I never bother changing because I never take it out. That drain is there so that you don't make the mess that I just made.
Yeah.
But to me, the amount of effort it takes to do all that, just make a mess. It's just, you know, get it over with. Yeah. Be a man.
Yeah.
Be a man, make a mess. Never ever double your washers. Never try to like say, oh, I'm going to put 2 washers in. That doesn't work.
Yeah.
Don't ever do that. That's not a thing. All right, so this cartridge. All right, so if you take a look at this cartridge, you'll see that there is some clips here. And those are meant to just snap into the bottom of this lid here. All right. Make sure that's good and tight. Make sure that's fitted in there. And that's to make sure that it's square and straight. Now, there's that old mechanic thing where you fill it up with oil first. You don't really need to do that. It will fill itself up with oil all by itself. Doesn't need you to help. As soon as I start putting oil in this thing, it will fill itself up. Right there. That's it. Never use a power drill on this thing. You got to do that by hand. Take my word for it, please, if you don't mind. I'll get over here. Okay. Now, this is a little awkward because it would appear that, like, and it could be that this cross member has moved just a tiny bit, or it could be that the entire engine has moved a tiny bit. Just a fraction of an inch. And that has knocked this thing out of place, because I felt like I really needed to kind of wedge that in there. And that could be an indication that, you know, my motor mounts and things are off just a tiny bit. Or it could just be bad engineering. All right, see that? All right, that's it. You want just enough in there to just pinch that washer a bit. I want to go over this real quick. I forgot about it a little bit. Now, I'm sure there's some real technicians that would be saying, Bob, you should be torque spec'ing these. But if it moves a little bit, it's loose. Simple as that. Yep. Didn't move last time. So, this is the things that they don't do at Jiffy Lube. Don't ever go to Jiffy Lube or any lube place. If you're one of those people watching this that works at such place, I don't care about your feelings, because the jobs you do are terrible and you don't deserve to touch my car. All right. Now, as far as these front stabilizer, whatever these bars are called, I'm going to have to go online and order those. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and fill the fluids back into this thing. And I've got an entire other set of Rolls-Royce wheels. It's a long story. When I bought my other car, it came with these big ghetto 26s. Those had to go. I went out and got some proper wheels to put on it. Then when I sold the car, put the ghetto wheels back on it, sold it, kept those. When I bought this car, I had these wheels refurbished. So I have an extra set of wheels and tires. But the other ones are black, which are great. And I had them on the car before, but the other car was silver and black. This one's only silver, and the black doesn't quite look right. But I could drive around for a couple of years on those tires, because I really only do maybe less than 5,000 a year or less. And once we get this fixed and do a full four-wheel alignment, these tires got to go. They're done. So, unfortunately, I got a couple of years out of these, but truthfully, I probably only got 20 or 30,000 miles out of them. Not even. So that's the thing about these cars. Those things are going to cost more money. Okay, I've got this nifty little filler here that I use. You've got this adapter cap that snaps into place. Then you have this little funnel, pops into place. I'll put a link to one of these in the video description on my Amazon affiliate page, in case you want one. Now, I've done this gig a couple of times, right? I've done the Rolls-Royce oil change. I've done it on my other cars. And I always see pretty much the same comments every time, right? People are like, oh my God, I can't believe you work on your car and your Rolex. Well, it's a stainless steel Submariner. It's probably the toughest watch made. It's made out of like their own blend of stainless steel with a sapphire crystal. The only thing I've ever broken on one of these watches really like is the little, what they call the pip, the little pearl at the top. Whacking that against some concrete. But, you know, an Apple Watch or something like that would just, forget it. It would break. And so I see that comment all the time. The other one I see is, Don't lean against the car, you're going to scratch it. You got to buckle, you got to walk, blah, 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 blah. I've never once scratched the car. You know why? Because my big fat effing belly is the bumper, right? No, you should have a bumper, a fender, a wing skirt, whatever you want to call it. But you know, it's my car. I'm not really worried about it. The Rolls-Royce paint job, which is a $30,000 paint job because it's like 12 layers thick, and I'm not worried about it. It's not going to hurt it. I've never once scratched a car. I've owned hundreds of cars and I've never once scratched a car. So I see that comment all the time. You're going to scratch the car. I'm aware of my presence and where I am. I don't. So I don't know. I see that comment all the time. How much oil does it hold? Till it's full. You check, and you check, and you check. Now listen, I know I haven't even gotten started. This thing holds a lot. So, but yeah, I do read all the comments, and I see the things that people say, and I figured, well, this time, what are people going to complain about? I used an OEM filter. I'm using OEM oil directly from Rolls-Royce of Las Vegas. I forget how much I paid. This stuff is, you figure there's 2 liters in here. These are probably, I don't know, 20, 30 bucks a piece. I don't know. I'll survive. You only got to do it like once a year, so it's not that big a deal. Certainly, they put the oil checker on the other side. We're 3 bottles in and it's barely touching the tip. And I see I'll tell you another comment that really bothers me about these cars is because I'm in the Rolls-Royce Owners Club and I'm in a lot of Rolls-Royce forums, and there's these people out there that, oh, that's not a Rolls-Royce, it's a BMW, blah, 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 blah. I think that's a terrible insult to the fine British people that build these cars in Goodwood, England. Those are UK citizens. Some of those people have been working for Rolls-Royce generationally. Their fathers or mothers worked there as sewers, stitchers. You know, the interior, this entire car is hand-built in England. Yes, they put a German engine in there and transmission. I got a Maserati that's built 100% in Italy, and the Ferrari makes the engine for it, but they get a what's the ZF or ZF transmission from Germany. Does that make it German? So this is very much an English car done in the way that Rolls-Royce is built and always has been. And the people that go, oh man, you're an idiot, it's just a 760. None of these people have clearly ever owned one of these cars or ridden in one of these cars. Like, a woman's just a woman, right? But is there a difference between, you know, the 50-year-old chubby lunch lady that hands you a pizza and then the supermodel walking up? They both had the same equipment, but there's a difference. There's nothing like this car. I own some cool cars. Okay, you guys watch my channel? You've seen my other cars? Nothing. And I mean nothing, nothing, not a G-Wagon, okay, not a Mercedes Maybach, not a anything gets the neck-breaking, head-turning respect that this car gets. Living here in Las Vegas, when I pull up to a valet or a parking area or a restaurant, I'm telling you I get treated special. Even though my Ram pickup truck dually costs more than this car right now, they don't know that. All they know is that the person that's in this car is important. A dignitary, maybe a politician, a billionaire. They don't know who I am. They just know I'm important. And I better get a table right away. I went to Golden Steer Steakhouse, one of the famous old steakhouses here. Walked in there, went up to the thing, and I said, I'd like to get a table. Oh, we're booked up, sir. Valet came and whispered something in the guy's ear. I got a table. I got a table. Your BMW 760 Li will not get you a table. It won't even get you ahead of the line at Chick-fil-A. It will do nothing for you except cost you money. So I'll take the Pepsi challenge with whatever you got. Because see, when you get into the crazy sports cars, right, you got a McLaren, you got a this or that. Those cars are just douchebag cars, right? People look at those cars and go, here's a guy with a midlife crisis, has a small weenie, he's got something to prove. There's something about the Rolls-Royce that's just dignified. You think about Michael Caine, right? You think about, you know, British royalty. You think about like or an oil sheik or something. There's just something about it that is dignified and different than any other car. I'm just saying. I really wish they had made this little thing like white or yellow. It's kind of hard to see. It's definitely full. All right. I'm an asshole. I double checked the manual. It says it takes 8.5 liters. Now, if you were counting, each of these is 2 liters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That means I just put in 10 liters. It means I just put in 1.5 liters too much. It's going to leak out anyway. So now what I got to do is I got to drain a little bit of the oil out. I wasn't paying attention. I should have checked it when I had 8 in there. And I forgot that I had bought extra oil because it had been leaking. It's not that big a deal. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go down there. I'm just going to pop the cap a little bit, a little bit of ooze out, and then I'll fill it back in with the extra that I have. It's a mechanic mistake. It's because I was doing this video, making excuses, but you know, I wasn't paying attention. Normally I would have checked that. See, normally I would have had that handy, and I was too busy yickety-yakking and stuff and made that mistake. But the important thing is, the really important thing is, honestly, is that I checked. And I'm going to correct the mistake. You're going to make mistakes like that in your life and when you're doing these cars. And it's not that big a deal. You're going to make mistakes. What's important is that you correct the mistake. That's all that really matters. Now, there's a couple other maintenance things that we're going to do. I don't think I really need to do the air filters on this car. I'll tell you why. Because I just did the old filters on that Lexus that I just got rid of. And I had done the oil and everything on it at the same time as this, and I put double the miles on it. And when I changed the filters, they were absolutely clean. So I'm pretty confident that the filters on this are also going to be pretty clean. So, you know, I might take and shake them out, but they're not worth changing. So, but I'll check them. All right, let me fix this problem. It'll only take me a second. All right, now it's just a tiny bit low. So that was like a $20 mistake. That was pretty stupid. And I don't know exactly how much I let out, so I'm just gonna have to add a little and keep checking. Yeah, that cost me a couple of bucks worth of oil, but a lot cheaper than the damage it might have caused the engine. Speaking of which, this is not an official endorsement of this product, but I've always been using this stuff called Z-Max here for years. There's people out there maybe think these things are scams, but I've been putting it on in all of my engines for a long time. It's a lubricant. And I used to drive tour buses, you know, Prevost tour buses, and I used to put this stuff in my generators, you know. And one time I had a generator and the oil plug came out. And it had been running for I don't know how long with no oil in it. And I had always put this in there when I changed the oil. And it had run for, I don't know for how long, but I had stopped and I heard the generator kind of clanging. It was running hot and smoking. I was like, what's going on? And I went and checked it, turned it off, had no oil in it. because the little valve had come off, you know. And I was like, holy crap. And I'd always put that Z-Max in the engine, and I filled the thing up with oil, and I continued to use that generator for a couple of years before I sold that bus. So how much that had to do with it, I don't know, but I gotta say, pretty happy with its performance. All right, we're gonna do this pretty incrementally. This is gonna be a pain in the ass because I'm gonna have to put it in, go over there, check it. You know, a lot of guys would have just cut that out of the video, that mistake I just made there. But that's not who I am. I'm just gonna be honest with you people. I am not a Rolls-Royce mechanic. I'm just a guy who owns a Rolls-Royce. And I really don't want to pay to take it in. Besides, they won't even work on it if I asked them to. And there's people out there that are like, oh, listen, man, if you're gonna afford to have a Rolls-Royce, you can afford to pay to have it fixed. Assholes. You can't just take this thing down to the Rolls-Royce dealer. They won't take it. They won't work on it. That's what you don't get. There's no place in town you could take like my white Rolls-Royce, that 67 Silver Shadow. Oh, it's perfect. It's like right on the hatch. Okay, so it's perfect now. And I'll check it in a few days or whatever when I drive it. But I'm just telling you, there's no place you can take the cars to get them fixed because they won't work on them. They just won't. These cars are so finicky. They're so afraid of working on them. Hey, I'll tell you what the real problem is, and one of the mechanics was honest with me. He says, you know why we don't like working on these cars? Why we refuse the service? Because people who either buy or still own an old Rolls-Royce are cheapskates that can't afford to buy a real one. To be honest. I can't afford a real one. Or not a real one. I shouldn't say real one. A new one is what I meant to say. Because this car new is about $700,000 down there. And yeah, not doing it. I would never buy a new anything, much less a Rolls-Royce. Okay? And so they know that if you come rolling in there with some used 20-year-old Bentley, Rolls-Royce, whatever, and then they give you a $10,000 bill for doing whatever, you're going to be like, oh my God! They already know that, so they don't bother. They're not even interested. Because, I'm going to check this coolant, but good Lord. Really? Okay, there we go. Make sure the car's cool and been sitting for a while before you do that. It's been here for hours. So. Oh, it's perfect. But they know that, like, for instance, I've talked about this with my Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow, right? That it's a $10,000 car. I've already spent $10,000 just fixing it. I've spent, I don't know, probably 20 grand on this car so far. So what you have to understand is that even though you're buying a depreciated car, you might buy this car for maybe 20% of its original value. It's still going to cost the same amount to fix it as if it were a brand new $700,000 one. So you need to be prepared for that. And this car is done. The fluids have been changed. And we're done with this part of it. Fixing those control arms, that's going to be a different video. Now I got to just reset the oil light on it, which requires some computer help. And we'll be done with this. All right. So in order to reset your lights, your services in this car, and I've talked about this before. This is a Maxxis, it's an Autel Maxxis. I'm trying to see this number. I'm blind. It's a 9 something. I can't see anymore. God damn it. Seriously? Really? I can't see this. I think this is the Autel Maxxis 906, but anyway, you go into service, maintenance. Condition-based service reset. Okay. And we're going to establish vehicle connections, communications. It's telling me I got a low battery, and that's something I need to take care of. But we can go to engine oil, reset with tool, and it'll tell me how many service counters there have been. 15 oil changes on this car. It actually tells me that the oil's only at 50%. But, you know, I'm changing the oil. Resetting. And this number is going to change to 16. This is important. If you ever go to look at one of these cars, you should have one of these with you. Plug this in and go through a full diagnostic and see how many times the oil's been reset, and divide that by how many miles are on the car, and that'll tell you the intervals of when they've changed the oil. If it's at 2 resets and 50,000 miles, you know they haven't been taking care of it. Right? So I can go in and look at how many times the spark plugs have been changed. Once by me. Okay, I changed the plugs in this car. Front brake, right? They're at 38%. Front brake service counter says 5. I don't think it's had 5 sets of pads, but I think that they're just counting. I don't know what they're counting. Let's see. Microfilter, vehicle inspection. I just had one. Look at that. It says inspection date, 1 of 24. Just had the inspection done today. Okay. I just had the smog check for it today, done. You know, exhaust emission inspection shows it was done today. Vehicle check, availability, it'll tell you all of its different things. So that's how you reset those particular things. Now I do know that this car does need a new battery. It's not been staying up, so that's gonna be a video that'll be a separate video we're working on, because this car has 2 batteries. So that'll be a different video. Anyway, this is something that you got to have, one of these little autels or something similar to it if you want to own one of these cars, because, or really you really should have this. If you're going to be somebody who works on your own cars and you're not willing to invest in this, you're not doing the right thing. You really got to have one. I'll put a link to it down into the description just in case you want to pick up one just like this one. But if you're going to look at a car that you want to buy, if you want to work on a car, and quite frankly, and we've talked about this in other videos, you're going to need to have a relationship with somebody who works for BMW that can program your suspension and things like that when those things are changed. All right. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed that video. So I've ordered those tension struts, I think they're called. Went on Scuderia Parts. They wanted like, I don't know, $1,500 for the pair, but I did find some on eBay for about half the price, about $600-700 for the pair. So I'm ordering those. I don't know how long they'll take. So we'll make a separate video of replacing those. The other arms are good because we've already done those. So we're gonna replace those. We're gonna change out the wheels, or at least the tires. If the tires are the same size, we're gonna change. I might just have the tires swapped over to these rims. If they're different size, then I'm going to keep them on those black wheels. I found that these Goodyear run flats, they don't seem to make them anymore, which is quite unfortunate. The only thing I can get are the Continental Conti Sport whatevers. Never really been a fan of those particular wheels. I've always found them to be kind of slippery. They're also not run flats. They're self-sealing, which is good, but it's not quite the same. So those are things that we're going to work on. If you're really interested in these Rolls-Royce videos, go into my videos section and search for Rolls-Royce, and you'll find all the videos we've done over the years of this Phantom and the other one about suspension, about working on the fuel system, all the different things we've done to these cars. That being said, I've been putting out these videos for a long time, and what's happened is people will email me and ask me for advice and send me messages, or they'll ask me to sell the car. Please don't do that. I am not selling the car. I'm not interested. I'm not here to help you buy a car. I'm also not giving out any advice. I'm not a mechanic. I don't give out any mechanical advice. You can just take from this video whatever you will. But I get a lot of emails because there's literally no one out there putting out videos of the modern Rolls Royces. There's Gary Mavers, who works on some of the older cars, and Ronnie Shaver and these other different people that put out these really good videos. But my advice is if you are a BMW Rolls-Royce mechanic, start a channel just doing stuff on these Rolls-Royces and you'll have a lot of viewers, because nobody seems to work on them and nobody seems to know anything about them. And I only do these videos just to share my experiences. And then I would say 99.9% of you are only watching because it's interesting. And then there's the tiny percentage of you who went out and bought one of these ridiculous cars. Okay, anyway, sorry for the diatribe. See you on the next video when we do these other projects, okay? And you're gonna like the next video I'm about to post where we change the batteries. Okay, catch you guys later, bye.